Wine Work and Passion is brought to you by the Napa Valley Wine Academy, America's premier wine school and two-time winner of the WSET Global Wine Educator of the Year Award. You can find a course that's right for you at napavalleywineacademy.com and use the code in our show notes for a special discount. Welcome, wine enthusiasts and job seekers. I'm your host, Karen Wetzel, and Wine Work and Passion is the podcast where we inspire you to make a career out of your passion for wine. I'm super excited to bring you part 2 of our 3-part series featuring the talent acquisition team at Southern Glazer's Wine and Spirits, the largest distributor in America. In our first episode of this series, we met Vince Pierce, the Senior Director and fearless leader of talent acquisition. And he gave us an overview of what his team does and a general idea of the roles they recruit for. Today, we'll drill down further and talk about specific opportunities. Chip Turris, the Director of Early Career Recruiting, will tell us how to go right from college to working in the wine industry. And Mike Cashion, Senior Talent Acquisition Manager for ETP, which by the way is a fancy term for IT, will explain how those who have a flair for technology can work in the wine industry with or without a college degree. This episode is packed with ideas and recommendations all the way through, so be sure to stay tuned till the end so you don't miss the thing. And they'll give you lots of links to help you find your dream job, and we'll pop those in the show notes for your convenience. Now let's meet Chip and Mike. Hi guys, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Doing very well.
Karen.
How are you?
Good, I'm doing good. So, can you tell our audience who you are and what you do in the wine industry?
Yeah, my name is Chip Turris, and I am the Early Career Recruiting and Programs Manager for Southern Glazer's Wine and Spirits. So I handle all things internships and recent grad hiring here.
Great, thank you. And Mike, who are you?
Hey, I'm Mike Cashion. So I am the Senior Manager for Talent Acquisition. I manage the team that is responsible for all IT recruiting with Southern Glazers. So I have a team of 9 total folks that is responsible for doing a lot of the heavy lift recruiting for the IT division.
Wow, so you work with a lot of computer geeks.
Yes, all the computer geeks.
Computer geeks instead of wine geeks.
That's
I
right.
get it.
Sometimes a little bit of both.
Well, hey, now we're talking. Well, speaking of wine geeks, tell our audience, Chip, you go first. Tell our audience what you had in your wine glass last time you had a glass.
Yeah, so kind of funny for me. I actually was gifted a nice bottle of wine, although I don't drink wine that much, and I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it correctly because I'm not that big into wine specifically. But I think it's Gargiulo Vineyards was the bottle. It was a cab. It was probably the best glass of wine I've ever had. But normally you'll catch me drinking some type of bourbon like Angel's Envy Rye or something similar.
Oh, that sounds good. That sounds really good. I love a good Manhattan. Especially in the winter. I don't drink them that much in the summer, but boy, I really do, especially when they have the Luxardo cherries. That's actually the only reason I drink the Manhattan is to get the cherries.
Yeah.
Oh, well, Mike, what were you drinking last?
Well, I'm a big wine geek, so I poured a 2014 Herta Lindy Cabernet Sauvignon, and it's a little small producer there in Napa Valley, but it is a big, bold cab and paired really nicely with my filet that I had. So that was a couple nights ago, and still looking forward to having another bottle of that.
Oh, wonderful. That sounds great. I'm going to have to visit both of these wineries since I'm right here in Napa. So, before, we get into your roles, let's get to know you guys a little bit better. So, Chip, tell us about, where are you from? Where do you live? Your education and life experiences, maybe your wine journey. Can you give us an idea of who you are?
Yeah, would be happy to. So I actually grew up outside of Chicago in a town called New Lenox, Illinois, which most people don't know, but about 40 minutes outside of Chicago. And went to school at University of Illinois in Champaign, Illinois. And funny fact, that's where champagne comes from. No, not really. There's just cornfields and a college out there. But I moved to Miami about a year and a half after I graduated from University of Illinois, and was there for about 6 years, and then just recently moved up to Charlotte, North Carolina, back in June of this past year. And I studied psychology and leadership studies. So people is really a big passion of mine, and so that's kind of how I fell into recruiting after college, and have done a couple of different things. I've done some IT staffing before on the kind of short-term recruiting side. And then I've done some executive recruitment as well, which that was actually mostly in the food and beverage space. So I got to learn about the 3-tier system in the wine and spirits industry, and got to learn about a lot of the major players and suppliers within food and beverage, but mostly adult beverage is what I focused on. And it was mostly recruiting for VP of sales roles or head of sales roles for a lot of wineries or breweries or spirits companies, et cetera. So did that for a bit. And then back in 2017 is where I started what I've been doing since, which is what I call early career recruiting or university recruiting, campus recruiting. It's all really synonymous. And so it's really all focused on the students that are looking for internships or recent grad positions out of colleges. And so I did that at Royal Caribbean, the cruise line, for about 4 years, and was overseeing.
I want to do that.
Yeah, I actually have another colleague that went from the cruise line industry to Southern Glaciers, and we say we're going from cruising to boozing, basically, and making a shift.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Yes. So, but yeah, did the same thing over there, overseeing their internship program, recent grad hiring, and then happened to jump over to Southern Glaciers back in 2020. And that's really all I've been doing since. And what's funny is I've never been huge into wine, as I mentioned, but I've definitely been big into the spirit space too. And the reason I even kind of landed here was really kind of ironic. I happened to, back when I was doing executive recruiting about 5 years ago, I was trying to frequently steal people away from what at the time was Glaciers or Southern Wine and Spirits to try to hire them for other companies. And everyone I would cold call to try to see if they would take on this new leadership role. And this wasn't only at Glaciers or Southern Wine and Spirits, but other companies too.
Right.
They would never want to leave. And so I knew going into possibly joining Southern Glaciers now that it was a company that people love to be at. They stayed here for a long time. And so that stuck with me when 5 years later, I happened to be being considered for a role with them. So kind of funny.
Wow. That's a great testament to the way that Southern Glazers takes care of its employees. I used to work for Glaze before there was Southern Glazers. So people don't know, there was 2 separate distributor companies. There was Glazers out of Texas that was in multiple states. And then there was Southern Wine and Spirits that was in other multiple states. I think you're based out of Florida, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they were number 1 and number 2, and they were, very competitive. And sooner or later, they just decided, well, what the heck, let's team up. So that really brought you to being the largest distributor for sure in the U.S., but maybe the world. I'm not sure. I mean, you've got to be pretty, pretty big. I know you're for sure the biggest in the U.S., but I did work for Glazers in Ohio, and now they're Southern Glazers. So I have fond memories of all that. Well, that's cool. We're going to talk a little bit more specifics about what you do, about your roles that you recruit for and all that. But let's hear from Mike. Mike, tell us who you are. What's your journey like?
Oh, well, where should I start? So I was born in New Orleans, which is where I actually currently live through a really strange journey. But born in New Orleans, I spent some time living in Mississippi through my younger years. Ended up going to the University of Southern Mississippi on a baseball scholarship. So I played 4 years of baseball for the University of Southern Mississippi Golden Eagles. Ended up having a career-ending injury that pushed my graduation date up a little bit. So got out of college in 2007, and started getting into sales for just really kind of more of technology type sales. It was point of sale systems for a company called Micros. It kind of had a lot of odds and ends until I really found my groove in IT recruiting with a company called Tech Systems in 2010. And from there, I really spent 6 years with them, and then ended up going back into tech sales as a value-added reseller for a company called Presidio. For some reason, I never really meant to, but I just always gravitated towards IT for some reason, and ended up developing more knowledge than I cared to even have in IT.
I
Uh,
like some of that knowledge. I need help.
be careful what you wish for. So ended up turning into a bit of a passion, and it was really interesting to start learning about how technology, is outpacing business, and how it's really kind of correlating to not only the tech components of what's driving businesses, but also the personnel and the staff that you need to be able to kind of run these systems and really maintain your business. Because as you've seen, technology is really kind of taken over, and is really driving business needs, as opposed to what it used to be, where business was kind of having technology as a necessary evil, if you will. So
Right.
um, I found myself in a couple of smaller companies here and there, just helping them build their IT staffing model, and really, and then some headhunting type of agencies that were looking to build out their IT recruiting practice. And so I've had a lot of experience and a lot of exposure to customer facing recruitment, and managing customer expectations, as well as being in the market, and recruiting the talent that's necessary for these companies. So I've been lucky to get a lot of different views of the industry. And in 2019, I was lucky enough to land a role with Southern Glaziers as their IT recruiter. And then I kind of moved my way up through the last 3.5 years, to become the senior manager for talent acquisition here, which I'm very lucky and very blessed to be a part of. And it's been a weird journey, but I wouldn't have changed anything. And in 2018, I took a trip to Napa with my wife. We had just had our firstborn about 6 months prior, and it was my first trip to Napa, and I just fell in love. And this was before I joined Southern Glaziers. So it just was happenstance that 8 months after my trip to Napa, where I fell in love with wine and had a passion for wine, I joined a company that is the largest producer in the country for wine and spirits. And it helped contribute to my wine education and my journey with wine. So I'm still pretty passionate. I've got a wine collection in my house here of a couple hundred bottles, and
Nice.
looking to add to it every day. So
Well, as long as you're not drinking it faster than you're buying it, you'll be okay.
yeah, it depends on when my family comes over. They
That's
outpace my
right.
they
Well,
outpace they outpace
if
my
you're like me,
inventory.
I have two closets. I have closets of wine for wine people, and I have closets for non-wine people. So,
That's exactly right. I
you don't
separate.
want you don't
I
want
have
to
a
cough
big
up the good
cabinet.
stuff for people who
Right.
wouldn't appreciate it. Or I also have friends that are wine people and come over for dinner, and when we're 6 bottles in, I'm not bringing out any more good stuff. If they want to
Oh,
keep drinking, then they can have the other closet.
that's right. It's funny. I have I bought a really nice wine. It's not a refrigerator. It's got a cooling unit in the top. Holds about 220 bottles, but I have a display line of about 6 bottles that I like to keep. It's Opus One and some other really nice bottles.
Right.
And every time my family comes over, I keep all the good stuff at the bottom. So I call that display line my Mason Dixon line, right? So
Right.
I'll tell them that they can go grab a bottle north of the Mason Dixon line,
Right.
but nothing south of it.
That's awesome. That's a good way to do that. You have to be careful these days. Okay,
Exactly.
well, so let's get a little deeper into your teams and your roles. Chip, why don't you tell us about really you did you gave us a flyover, but tell us a little bit more about what you and your team do. How many maybe how many people you manage, and who do you recruit for? What I should say, what positions do you recruit for,
Mhm.
and how do you go about doing it?
Yeah. So I'm happy to share that our team's grown quite a bit the past year. When I started 2 years ago, it was a solo mission within early career. And so now we have a mighty team of 7 people, including myself. And so I have 4 early career recruiters on my team, and they're regionally focused within the US. And then I do have a program manager that helps run our internship program and our recent grad programs, which are called our next gen programs. And then we do have a recruiting coordinator as well. And so our team is really responsible for any requests that come in for internships within the company, and then recent grad positions that when you're trying to hire from universities. And so this year, we're planning to hire over 350 students across the company in different functions, different locations. So our team in early career is enterprise-wide. We cover any place that we're hiring within and all functions. So anything, even from IT, we kind of do step into Mike's world a little bit in IT, as well as operations. We hire a lot of sales, just like our company as a whole. We're about 2/3 sales focused, similar to our hiring within early career is about 2/3 sales. And when we say sales, I always like to clarify this is not like cold calling type of sales or hardcore business development. It's way more, account management, relationship building type of sales with existing accounts in almost every case. So,
Right.
So sales, operations, IT, some finance, some HR, it kind of runs the gamut. And we have an 11-week internship program that runs from late May to early August. And so we help recruit for that program. We help plan and execute and actually manage that program. So, what does the onboarding look like? What does week 2 look like? What does week 7 look like? And then, how are we, caring for the experience for the interns? And then ultimately our internship program is designed to convert our interns into full-time employees. So we don't want to just have interns just to have interns. We obviously want to be able to hire them into our company. And we are now recently building what I just referred to is our next gen programs. So these are really new. We have 3 currently. And these are anywhere from 1 year to 2 year rotational programs and development programs. And right now there's one within IT. There's one within operations. And there's actually a leadership development program that will go across all disciplines across Southern Glaciers. So we're looking to hire recent grads to step into those programs.
Okay. And so a couple questions. Intern, that term, we use it for a lot of different things. These are paid positions, correct?
Correct. Yes, paid. And we actually do try to protect that term internally in terms of if someone's an intern, they actually have a specific job, a specific function.
Right.
They're acting just as if they were, hired as an employee. It's not administrative. It's not just going to do very menial tasks. You're getting actual hands-on experience.
You're actually doing the job.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. And after 11 weeks, then you either can continue in that job as a regular full-time employee, or you decide that's not for you, and or the company decides it's not for them, and we part ways, right? Okay.
Yeah.
And this next gen, you said it's a 1 to 2 year development program. So is it more intense?
Great question. So it's really on timing. And to kind of clarify your question too around the internship program, we're typically hiring juniors or rising seniors into our internship program. So in most cases,
Juniors and seniors in college.
Correct. In college. Okay. Yes. Yeah. Thank you for it. Yeah. So basically it'd be someone who's in their junior year and then in between their junior and senior years when they will typically intern with us for those 11 weeks. So in many cases, they still have 1 to 2 semesters left before they could join us full time. So usually they would hopefully intern with us, in a perfect scenario, get an offer to come back with us while they finish their last semester or 2, and then start 3 to 6 months after that point. And then,
so in the intern program, it's always kids in college or young people in college. Okay.
Correct.
Okay. And so you said the onboarding program takes 11 weeks, but you said you hire really across all kinds of functions. Do you have a different onboarding, that 11-week period? Do you have a different program for different positions?
Great question. Yes. So we, we'll have well over 100 interns this upcoming summer across the company. And as I mentioned, they'll be in different functions. So when someone applies to, let's say, a sales internship or an operations internship, we're looking for specific backgrounds for those positions. And when they interview, they're interviewing with those teams. So if you were to join us as a sales intern or be considered for one, you'd interview with the sales team. You get understanding what that would look like day to day, and you're staying with that sales team the entire 11 weeks. So you're acting as if you're almost a sales consultant. Now, same if you're in IT, it might be like an IT analyst or some type of developer. You're in that role as if you were almost a full-time employee, maybe in kind of more of a training setting or support setting. But essentially, we're vetting out candidates who are looking for that function and would actually be doing that function once they're here.
Okay, so for people listening, if you're either in late stages of your time in
Career.
college,
Yeah.
or your college program, or many of you might have kids or grandkids. I'd probably have grandkids that are in their college, in their junior year. This could be a good opportunity, and we are going to give in the show notes some contact information for both Chip and Mike. If you've got young people in your life, in your circle that are interested in this, sounds like a great program. So, Chip, in your role, are you really exclusively dealing with colleges and people either in college or just leaving college, pretty much?
Exactly. Yep. That's our sweet spot. We're typically always dealing with the kind of junior senior time frame is what we're usually hiring for. And kind of the unique part about our team in talent acquisition is that we're typically hiring a lot farther out than other teams would. So in many cases with our like Mike's team, which he'll share about and what they recruit for, along with our commercial team and operations recruiting team, they're usually trying to fill immediate needs, right? We have an opening on a team, or maybe it's a project they need to hire for. They're usually hiring for immediate. We could be extending an offer 9 months to a year out from when someone would start. So it's kind of a difference of how we actually recruit timeline wise, but it's because of the students that usually would typically, go on campus from September until May and then be available over the summer. So that's what kind of dictates our timelines.
Okay, and you said you hire about 300 people or 350. Is that your team, the early development team, period, or is it the whole talent acquisition team? No, it's way more than that.
So yeah, it's just our team of 4 recruiters that actually handle those 300 plus hires.
Gotcha.
So, but we basically do it over the course of the year, right? We usually will find out in June or July of a particular year for next summer's program. And then our team will kind of go on college campuses based on where the number of hires are. Like we may have, let's say, 30 sales positions in Texas that we're looking to hire for, or maybe it's 5 operations hires in Illinois or 15 IT hires in Miami. Based on where all those needs are is what our team will go on campuses to go recruit students for to hire. But it's our team of those 4 recruiters within early career that are responsible for those hires. So there's a lot more hiring that happens, obviously, at Southern Glaciers besides our department. We do about 300 or so hires, but at any given point, we have close to 1,800 to 2,000 open positions across the company. So pretty large volume.
So when you're looking at a recruit or somebody in college or just leaving college, are you looking for people who have like a marketing degree, or obviously for IT, you want someone who has, some good education in technology? For sales, what do you look for? Business management, is that the type of programs that make a good candidate?
Really good question. So yeah, definitely depends on the specific role, as you just mentioned, right? So for IT or our ETP department, which is what Mike recruits for, we're typically looking for computer science, computer engineering, information technology, MIS, mathematics or statistics, things like that. And then for the sales side, which is a good chunk of what we do, we're pretty open, right? So business is probably the most common we see, or maybe communications, marketing, psychology, things like that. But we've hired, chemical engineers backgrounds for sales if they wanted it, right? So it runs the gamut. There's definitely no restriction within sales for the backgrounds, but it's very typical we see that business or maybe hospitality background for sales. Someone who obviously does enjoy talking to people is a big part of that. And then for operations, that's typically like a supply chain background or industrial engineering background is most typical for that type of thing.
Gotcha. Oh, wow. So that's great. So I think that's really helpful for people when they're thinking about college or their kids are thinking about college, if they want to end up crossing over into the wine industry. And that's really the point of this podcast is, to a lot of people want to get in the wine industry, but think they have to have like their, Master of Wine certification or even just their WSET certifications. And it's not true. It's not true. It's always helpful to have, certifications, and that's really what we do at the Napa Valley Wine Academy. In fact, we're the largest in the world, except for London, and you know, we certify more people. Well, let's put it this way: we certify. There's hundreds of wine schools. We
Mhm.
certify 35% of all the WSET candidates in the U.S. So we're like, and you guys offer WSET to your
Mhm.
employees, I know. But and you're raising your hand, Chip. Are you WSET certified?
Yeah, I have a WSET level 2 for wine and spirits. So
Oh,
that was
nice.
something that the company offered for me or for anybody really, and I took advantage of it. So
Yeah, good. Well, Mike, let's talk to you about what you do, and kind of give us a similar overview, like Chip did, of your role and who what you recruit for, what those qualifications need to be, and all that.
sure. So I manage a team of two customer facing recruiters, meaning that they work with hiring managers to identify the needs of their team, and then on top of those two recruiters, I have a sourcing lead who is kind of driving results from six of our sourcing specialists. So a total of nine people on my team right now. So we, as Chip had mentioned, we focus solely on IT type of positions, and this is anywhere from entry level IT roles all the way up to VP level roles, depending on again what the business needs and uh, what's driving the need for our entire enterprise. So we, as far as qualifications and things that we're looking for, it really depends on the role. We have in 2022, we were responsible for recruiting over 300 IT roles for Southern Glaciers. And again, these skill sets could range anywhere from a business analyst all the way up to platform specific type of technologies like Salesforce, which is a obviously with the sales team that we deploy out in the entire country is a huge platform for us. We build our company website or actually our customer facing online portal that we've been launching is called Proof. We build that through SAP, a tool called Hybris. And then everything in between. Obviously we have a heavy security focus, as any company of our size would need. We have a big supply chain and logistics focus for technologies that are specific to those. And anything including the back end really on the infrastructure side with data centers, data center technology and things that just really keep the lights on for the entire organization from a technical perspective. We recruit and we manage those roles for our customers, by the dozens really. So uh, it's a broad gamut. It's a lot of different skill sets, and it's a lot of different ranges of skill sets in terms of seniority. But that just to me tells me that there's a ton of opportunity with the company. And it, when you think of wine and you think of distributing wine and spirits, you'd really just, the IT presence doesn't really resonate with you. You think of, supply chain and logistics, but our IT team has over 500 people in the organization, just on that team alone. And they're spread out across the country, mostly in Dallas and in Miami. But, it just shows you what kind of manpower is needed to really make our engine go and really kind of support the team that's out in the field right now. So, we have a similar lift for 2023. We're looking to fill, probably another 200 roles, if not more. And again, it'll run the spectrum of base level roles all the way up to leadership type of roles.
Now, is college always a requirement for your roles?
It's a good question. So, not typically. It depends on the role, but there's a lot of exceptions made for the experience that you might have. So, if we're looking at a senior level role and you don't necessarily have a college degree, but you have 5 to 7 years of really solid experience with that skill set, that can certainly be something that we'll take into consideration. So, I've seen plenty of people hired without a college degree. It certainly doesn't hurt if you have one, but the level of experience and your hands-on exposure to certain technologies is definitely the key attributes there.
Now, you mentioned that you're a bit of a wine geek and you have your WSET Level 2 certification. Is there any requirement for any of the IT employees to have any kind of wine background or wine certifications?
No, I had zero, I had zero background in anything wine and spirits related. I had never worked for any company that was even, in the industry. So, as I had mentioned, I caught the bug in 2018 and was lucky enough to land a role with Southern Glazers in mid 2019. And I had learned that if you're interested, the company's willing to pay for your certifications. They just ask that you take it very seriously and really study and make sure that you can pass. And I passed. I passed with distinction on my spirits and both with distinction on spirits and wine. Took it very seriously, and it was really great. It was a great experience and a wealth of knowledge. And I'm actually looking to possibly do my level 3 in wine, but I haven't really crossed that bridge yet because I know it's pretty. The level of knowledge you need is pretty extensive there.
Yeah, it's about they suggest that you would spend about 80, I think it's 86 hours studying for level 3, where with level 2
Yeah.
they only recommend 28. So it's a big
Right.
jump. It's three more than 3 times the study time, but having a level 2 gives you a really good foundation for that. But there is some studying to be done, but
Yeah, and there's
it's good.
a tasting aspect too, which is that's always been an interesting thing for me. I've really been, I've tried to do blind tastings and just test my palate, if you will, and I've learned that I'm not very good.
Well, level 3 is great for that because you really taste a lot of wines and you have a tasting in the exam. So
Yep.
that's perfect for you. That's really a great organization. And for those of you who listening that don't happen to have the pleasure of working for Southern Glazers because you offer it internally, if you are listening and you want to take your WSET certifications, just look us up at Napa Valley Wine Academy.com and we will be more than happy to accommodate you. We do almost everything online, with the exception of level 3. You can take level 3 online. The exam has to be live, and we do have several locations. We're not just here in Napa. We have satellites, in different areas. So, check us out. Anyway, sorry, I had to do a little commercial.
No, I would add if you have any interest in wine, period. I mean, it's a phenomenal certification to pursue, and it's a neat party trick if nothing else. People will come to you with asking for
Yeah.
wine recommendations and things like that. So
I even had a cardiologist in my class one time. I'm like,
nice.
huh? And she was a young person. She goes, well, I'm just thinking maybe when I retire, I want to work in a winery. I'm like, and you're a cardiologist. It was really funny. We get all kinds. It's really funny though, Mike. Uh, in our classes for WSET, we get a lot of IT people who are just trying to get a brain break from all the technology, and they
Yep.
want just to pursue something they enjoy, and they're not trying to work in the industry or anything. They just want they like wine and they want to think about something else because IT can be pretty intense, really. So
Very much.
um,
We actually have one of our hiring managers is a certified sommelier. So
nice.
he's a good buddy of mine. His name's Mike Gibson. He's a good guy, and we had a chance to sit down at one of our offsite meetings and just kind of chat wine, and it's interesting how much I don't know.
Yeah, kind of geek out with them. Well, that's good though. I'll tell you what, I have, being here in Napa, I know a lot of masters of wine and master sommeliers, and they always say the same thing. They'll never know everything, even though they got their MW or their MS. The world of wine is constantly changing, and with every vintage, there's something new to learn. So you'll never know everything about wine, but it's fun to
Absolutely,
learn.
that's the fun part.
Um, yeah, I have another funny IT story. So one thing I learned, so when we're talking about IT, people think, oh, it's computers, but it's also your sales team has their own little IT device, right? What is it called?
They Chip, you might know this better than me. I mean, they our online portal that they use is Salesforce.
Oh, it
It's
is.
the
Okay.
Yeah.
And
it's
they've
the
got like
application that they use.
And they've got like an iPad or something, right? That they
Yeah.
use it for. So when I started in sales, this is no joke. And God, it was really 100 years ago, 37 years ago. And they literally, what they would do is admin, we used to call them secretaries back then, anything that ran through the copier that didn't print, or you'd have extra paper, or maybe only one line printed, they would cut those in half. They did have a handheld paper cutter, and they'd take a wad of them and staple them together, and they handed that to me with a price book that was hand typed, and they said, here you go, here's your list of accounts.
Oh, wow.
And then we had to call them in to the same person, the same gal that gave us the order pad. We had to call them in at the end of the day. I looked at that. I had worked for another company before that was just ever so slightly more sophisticated. And I just thought, oh my gosh. So times have changed, and you don't have to be a tech person to be a salesperson, but you can't be afraid of like iPads and that type of
Oh,
thing.
yeah.
But
Definitely.
it makes sales jobs, because I came out of sales myself. It makes jobs so much easier, just so much better.
Yeah.
I think back in the day.
The pace at which technology is growing there's businesses that can't keep up, and our business is almost outpacing what we can keep up with in the IT department too. So we're always trying to make sure that we can support the business from an IT perspective, and that's a big reason why we're always hiring a wide variety of different positions.
Yeah. So if you're someone is an IT geek, a computer geek, and they like wine, they don't have to like wine, but if they like wine, this is a good way. As I say, our goal on Wine Work and Passion is to help you make a career out of your passion for wine. There's a lot of ways to do it, and you don't have to know anything about wine, and that's pretty cool. I love that. I really
Absolutely.
love that. Okay, so Chip, we're going to come back to you. I always like to end because we're getting close to ending here. I always like to end with telling our audience some things that they can do as they're listening to you, thinking, well, I got a son in college, or or a daughter in college, and I think this would be something they could be interested in. What what are some action items that somebody can do, whether they're in college or not, to say, I want to get in on this? What do you think some things
Mhm.
they can do to make sure they're chosen, say, as an intern?
Yeah, of course. So I would say one thing I'm consistently telling students, especially if they're early in their career journey, right, freshman, sophomore, or even junior, is to definitely jump in and get involved in student organizations. So if you do have a passion for wine specifically, there may be a wine club, right, that you could either join or maybe even start at your school. I've seen a couple of those. They're not at every university, but some have like a wine specific one.
But you have
Uh,
to be 21.
yeah, there you go. I got to be 21. Also, if you are under 21, there's usually hospitality clubs are pretty common at a lot of universities. So you could join those clubs if you want to go that path. But in general, just joining a student organization and taking on leadership roles is a very big advantage, right? Especially because it's hard to get internships and jobs when you're in your freshman, sophomore year of college. A lot of companies have restrictions around who they would hire, but it's a really great thing to be able to speak to in an interview process and be able to speak to in terms of your experience, that you were able to take on a leadership role, beyond the classroom, were able to lead in the capacity and problem solve and maybe, work on a budget or project management type of stuff. So that's definitely a big one. And I think for those that are looking to maybe get into some type of sales role within, Southern Glaziers or similar companies, definitely, look, if you are of age, to work in a bar, if you can be a bartender, or even just, work in the service industry within a restaurant or maybe hotel. And that's typically one thing I'll kind of give a student an edge if they're looking to be within sales. If they've interacted in the hospitality industry in some way, I think it's always a great thing to start if you don't have any experience.
Yeah, that's great advice. I came out of the restaurant business into wine, and it's funny, people don't realize the restaurant industry sets you up for a lot of things, and that's really where I caught my wine bug, because I ended up being a trainer for them, and had to train on the wine program, and of course our distributors would come in and give us the a little education on the products that we sell for them. And I'm like, I want to do that. I want to teach people about wine. And when I got into sales, which is teaching, you can't sell you can't sell a car if you don't tell people something about it, right?
Mhm.
So it's the same with wine. So yeah, I think the hospitality industry is a great industry to come out of, generally speaking, for the wine industry. That's great. And Mike, what advice would anybody who's interested in IT and crossing over into wine, what advice would you give them?
Yeah, it's if you're in college and you're looking to to get into IT, or you're studying for it, I would suggest picking a niche, right? Because having a very niche skill set like security, or some sort of platform, like Salesforce or SAP, that'll definitely give you more you know deeper options in terms of what you can do, and how much you can really make, honestly. If I'm being completely honest there, the deeper your niche skill set, the higher the demand and the less folks that are doing it. So find something that you really can explore deeply, and commit to it. If you're not in college and you're looking to get into IT, it's never too late. Much like the WSET, you can find certifications and kind of get your foot in the door with CompTIA and some other organizations that can offer some pretty basic IT credentials that can help jumpstart your career there. And if you're in IT right now and you're looking to get into wine and spirits, there's not a lot of crossover, into anything that's really niche in terms of being in the wine and spirits industry with IT. If you have a skill set that's desired within one of with our organization or any other organization that has a pretty large footprint, it's really just about exploring those opportunities, and trying to coordinate with the talent acquisition team, and positioning yourself well to get one of those positions. It's definitely a good industry to be in right now. It's a very high demand industry. There's a lot of opportunity. The unemployment rate for IT has been stuck around 2.33% for the past 7 to 10 years, and it's never gone over 3. So you're always going to be in high demand if you have one of these skill sets, and if you really commit yourself to a certain type of skill set that's valuable, you'll never be out of a job, and you'll basically write your ticket to wherever you want to go.
Right. So how can people, Mike, I'm going to stick with you and then we'll go back to Chip. How can people find available jobs posted, and how can they reach out directly to you through social media of some sort? How can they find out more?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, our website will have all positions listed that we're actively recruiting for. But on top of that, LinkedIn is a very powerful platform for us when it comes to recruiting. We have a lot of positions that we'll tag and post there. We work with a company called Shaker that helps us market a lot of our positions to different platforms. But for me, if you ever have any inquiries about a role with Southern Glazers that's IT focused, I'm always open to networking with anybody on LinkedIn. So you can always find me on LinkedIn and shoot me a request. And if you heard me on this podcast, you can reference that, and I'd be, obviously give a good reference point for me. But yeah, and my team of recruiters is also always open to networking with anybody that is looking to join the company as well. So those are the best avenues, and we're always looking for folks that want to join the company. So feel free to always reach out.
That's great. And a lot of your team works remotely from wherever they are. They don't have to be in a central location generally, or do they?
No, so they are, most of them are centered around the Miami area. They stretch to the Palm Beach area. And we do have some of our sourcing specialists that do sit remotely. So we have one in LA, we have one in I believe Virginia, and a couple in South Florida. So they're spread out all over the place. So um, you know we do have a tendency to have a preference towards either Dallas or Miami, particularly with our IT roles that we have. From a recruiting standpoint, if you're interested in a recruiting role with us, we're pretty open to where the location can be. But we do encourage, obviously, some face-to-face interaction where possible with our customers, and making sure that we're building those relationships.
And your
To
customers are internal customers, right?
That's
When you
correct.
say
Yeah.
customers, these are like sales managers or, that type of thing, right?
Well, they're all IT managers, so they're all responsible for driving projects on different platforms, or for different types of domains, if you will. So infrastructure, commercial support, supply chain and logistics, back office technology. Those are all domains that I call our customers. So
Right.
they have positions that need to be filled. Therefore, they're our customers, and we have to fulfill those positions.
Yeah, that's cool. I worked in similar roles when I was in education. All the managers who needed education were my customers. I was servicing them and their teams. So yeah, I get that very, very much so. Chip, what about you? How can they find your jobs or openings or internships that you?
Yeah. So Career Site's definitely a great spot. So if you just Google Southern Glazers careers or Southern Glazers jobs, it'll pop up. And we actually have a really great filter, actually category there. And so we make it really easy. So if you went on our career site, there's a filter for internships and early career. And if you go on there, anything that pulls up will be for students or recent grads. So it's a really convenient filter for finding positions with what our team is focused on. And then we do post, as Mike kind of mentioned, we post on like LinkedIn. We have jobs going to Handshake, which is a big platform for students. It's on Way Up. And so all good places to find jobs for us. And then also, if you're looking to connect with me, I'm definitely on LinkedIn, pretty active on there as well. And then kind of a shameless plug, but I did just recently start a YouTube channel specifically for trying to help students in really developing their ability to get jobs, right? Whether it's like interview tips or resume tips, specifically around students. And it's called Chipping Away. So that just recently started and looking to post more content pretty soon.
Okay. And for those of you who are writing furiously to take notes as to how to get a hold of these guys, I'm going to put all these links in the show notes. So it's going to be a long show note for this episode, which is fine. That's all really good. Just out of curiosity, do you guys know if you're posted on winejobs.com or Force Brands?
I don't think we are. Chip, do you know?
I think Force Brands we are. I'm fairly certain. Wine Jobs, I'm not 100% positive, but we can definitely find out. We have an amazing manager, Debbie Cicerello, who oversees our recruitment marketing. That will definitely know that answer.
Wine Job sounds interesting. I think we might need to explore that a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm looking here. Probably not. I'm looking. They really don't have an IT segment. Everything but.
It's okay. There's a first time for everything.
General. That's interesting because they do have finance and accounting, but I don't see a category for IT. Well, I'm buddies with them, so I'm going to call them up.
Hey, so they put that in there. First time for everything, and we can get them started.
Yeah, they were both separately. They were both previous guests on the podcast. And I know Force Brands, I know you're on there for sales. I would assume you're on there for IT as well. Okay, well, I want to let the audience know that this was episode 2 of a 3-part series. So in our next series, it won't be next week, it'll be a couple of weeks. In our third and final episode, we're going to be featuring Christy Garner, who's the talent acquisition director that oversees sales and commercial, which, as you guys said, sales is such a huge part of your company, so many positions. And then Brittany Merritt is the director overseeing operations and corporate, anything in that area that's not IT. So don't miss that one as well. It's going to be super packed with, like today, with lots of great information to help you jumpstart your wine career. So make sure you tune in to that one as well. I think this series is turning out really great. It's great to have each director on board, as a guest, because, just today I'm thinking, wow, you gave the audience so much great advice and great insight into all the different ways to get into the wine industry. We all, and anyone who listens to this podcast regularly can tell you, everybody has their own story. And it's so interesting how we all got the bug, and sometimes it just swerved, it found you. It's just so interesting. And your stories are just as interesting. So I want to thank you guys very much for all your time and your expertise. Of course, thanks to my audience. And I don't know, you guys got anything else you want to add? We sign off.
Thank you for having us, Karen. This is great. This is an awesome experience. I'm looking forward to hopefully getting some folks to reach out and help jumpstart their IT career with the wine industry.
Yep, that's right. That's right.
Same here. Thank you so much, Karen. This is great.
Oh, you're welcome. I enjoyed having you. All right. Well, stay tuned, guys, for the next part of this career series. Thanks to all of you for joining, and I hope today's show has inspired you to make a career out of your passion for wine. If you'd like to have a one-on-one career coaching session with me, just use the link in the show notes for more information or to schedule an appointment. This podcast is all about helping you follow your dreams, so feel free to send us your suggestions for guests or topics through our email link that's listed in the show notes. And it means an awful lot when you share us with friends or leave a review on iTunes. Thanks for listening. I hope you'll join us again for our next episode.